Are learning now in Pirkei Avos. So we're going to start with the fourth paragraph on the page, the second paragraph in Gimel on the right side, the first column. It says, Geulah ain't over here the Rebbe is continuing the famous discussion about Geulah versus Geulah, that when you insert the letter Aleph into the word Geulah, you come to the idea of Geulah. That means that the entire idea of Golus and Geulah is that they're intricately intertwined. So he says, Geulah ein pirusha. Geulah does not mean Shaydei hayitzia megolus maznichim tzachayim. Through leaving Golus, we leave behind and we desert life. Hapulas va'olam shoyu koydem begolus, the different activities in the world that were prior to this in exile. Adrab, just the opposite. Geulah pirusham. Geulah means shametzia shoyse koydem shubedes begolus, the existence that was previously enslaved in Golus. Nasis, it loy betel chas v'shalom elam mishuchreres. It becomes freed and released from being in Golus, not that it stops existing. V'amaylu v'shleimus the Geulah mitzvah shleimihi, and the ultimate and the quality and the perfection of the true and complete redemption is sha'kol mishtachrer. Everything becomes freed. Ein shum inyonim shnish'arim chas v'shalom avudim begolus. Nothing remains lost, heaven forbidden, Golus. Lo yisiru begolus shum inyan. We will not leave behind in Golus any matter. Afilu hanidochim va'oivdim. Even those that are scattered and lost, like it says of Bo ha'oivdim eretz Ashur v'hanidochim eretz Mitzrayim, even those will be collected. Shenikroim kach b'toiras emes. Toiras emes calls them nidochim. Toiras emes calls them oivdim, calls them scattered, calls them lost. Even they yigalu, they will be redeemed. Ha'geula tia gula mitis v'shleimot. It'll be a true and complete redemption. B'kamas u'be'eches b'chol advarim, both quantitatively and qualitatively in all matters. Mi'aklal hagodol shebehem ad haprat shebeprat shebehem, from the greatest of them until the most minor detail. Kol Yehudi v'kol b'nei Yisrael, every Jew and all the Jewish people, b'noreinu v'zkarneinu v'b'neinu v'arseinu, with our youth and our elderly and our sons and our daughters, v'gam chelchem ba'olam, and also their portion in the world, kasvam v'zavam mitam, their money and their gold with them. Im kol pulasem v'segem begolus, with all their activities and all their advances and everything they acquired in Golus. Hagula tishachrer kol adam as kol bnei adam. Redemption will free all people and all human beings. Gamumas ha'olam, also the nations of the world. V'chol inyanei ha'olam, and also all matters of the world. V'chol echad v'echad befrat im kol inyanim, in kol inyanov, and every single individual with all of his matters. Kol ha'inyanim achiyuvim begolus nisharim gam hala. All positive aspects of Golus remain now as well, will remain when Moshiach comes. Ella, she is batal matzavim hagalusi. Their Golus aspect will cease. She yivatal ahelam v'hester ha'machasam tziyusam ha'mitis v'apnimis. It will be nullified, the concealment and covering that covers on their true existence and their innermost existence. V'ashibud l'darkei ha'teva v'gashmis ha'olam mishtalshim hazeh, and their enslavement to the ways of nature and the physicality of the world that results from the fact that their true being is concealed. Like the Rambam rules, you should not even consider, it should be that in the days of Moshiach, any matter will cease from the way the world runs, or there'll be some novelty in the creation of the world. The world will go on running as usual. The Chacham said, there's no difference between the world at present and the days of Mashiach, only the enslavement of the nations. What is going to be unique when Mashiach comes? All will return to the true faith. V'yisakin Moshiach ha'olam kuloi laviz Hashem b'yachad, and Moshiach will prepare and fix up the entire world to serve Hashem together. Shenamar, like it says, Ki oz afech al am himself a brura likri kulum b'shem Hashem. Then I will transform to the nations a clear language that all will call out with the name Hashem. And they will all serve Him as one and together. Al pizah moving according to this understood. Du a tevis Geulah kelelus is tevis Geulah al b'tesefes aleph. That's why the word Geulah includes in it the word Geulah, but just with an additional letter aleph. The redemption does not nullify the service of Golus or the Golus itself. Adrabah, just the opposite. The Geula's purpose is to elevate the life of the exile, to elevate the exile. Aidei shichrur kol hanyanim mehagolus, through freeing all matters of the exile, ubezeg gufelasis geula, and from the exile itself to transform it and to make it into redemption. Aidei zeshemegalim b'chol hanyan the Geulah ha'alef adalufish aloylam, through revealing in all matters of the Golus the aleph of the Master of the world. Mesirim esahelim v'hester b'inyanei ha'golus ha'machasim al mitziusa v'tachlis ha'amitis. We remove the concealment and covering of the Golus matters that conceal and cover over its true being of everything and its true goal. Megalim esalufish aloylam shebezeh, we reveal the Master of the world that's in it. Hatachlis the chol inyanei ha'golus shebeshvila nivrei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the goal of all matters of Golus, that for that sake they were created through Hashem. Kach shemegoyla nasa geula, such a way that from the exile becomes redemption. That's how that occurs when we reveal the true idea and the true nature of the Golus. Geulah higilui ha'alef ta'alufish aloylam begoyla. Geulah is the revelation of the Aleph, which goes on the Master of the world in the exile. Gilui ha'emes va'apnimius techol inyanei ha'golus. It's the revelation of the truth in the inner matter of all matters of Golus. V'chol ha'pulos b'zman ha'golus, and to reveal the inner aspect of all the activities of a time of exile. Gilui elokus b'chol inyanei ha'olam, the revelation of godliness in all matters of the world. The way all matters of the world reveal the glory of Hashem. And everything Hashem created in this world, He only created for His glory. So we reveal all of that in the world that transforms Golus and Geulah. So now the Rebbe is going to analyze this further by first posing a question. The relationship of Golus and Geulah is still two opposite things. True, we have to insert the Aleph of Geulah, of Alufish Aloylam, into Golus, but still, what Golus is about and what Geulah is about is two opposites. So why would we stick them together in the same word? Let's see Ois Daled, the third paragraph on the page. What we said before is an explanation how Geulah can include in it Geulah. Since the intention and purpose is that the Geulah should elevate also the Golus. But we need explanation. Why is the elevation of the Geulah such a primary part of Geulah? Until that's the content of its name. Geulah is with the additional letter Aleph, as it's known that the name indicates the very matter. In other words, what the Rebbe is posing is, in the question over here, is that seemingly the whole idea of the Golus being transformed during the time of Geulah seems to be an interesting phenomenon, an important phenomenon, but it doesn't seem to be the entire message of the Geulah. The Geulah seems to be more than just the transformation of the Golus. So therefore, why would you make that the whole makeup of the word Geulah is Geulah with an additional aleph. And the Rebbe adds a stronger question to that. We say them as even more so, the Geulah ain't rak b'aliyas in Yoni HaGolos in Yoni Oil. The advantage of Geulah is not just in the ascent of matters of Golos and matters of the world. Al shebegeulah betkufa shniya la'achri atkufa rishayna shaydasamru bedur baram manal. The Geulah, especially in the second era, after the first era that we quoted before from the Rambam, that nothing will change, that the Rebbe always explains is only in the first era when Moshiach comes. In the second era, after Tchias HaMesim, after the resurrection of the dead, Yischachu in Yonim Chadoshim, new things will come into being. Chadoshim b'yoyser b'shinim and hagish aloylam, completely new in how the world runs, not like what the Rama speaks about the first era, that the world goes on running as normal. The ultimate example of this chidush of the second era is this primary and basic concept of the resurrection. Chidush that's completely throwing the entire laws and rules of nature and the way the world was created, is throwing all the rules out the window. So if especially the second era of Moshiach is completely different and a completely miraculous era, and it has no comparison to the era beforehand, how do we say that Geulah and Geulah are interrelated? How is it possible that this state of the entire Mashiach's times, even that miraculous time that's beyond the world and beyond the exile in the second era of Mashiach's times, the entire period is called Geulah, not just the initial era that we spoke about before, that the world is unchanging, but even the second era, which is completely miraculous and all the laws of nature go out the window. How do we call it in the general name Geulah, which is Geulah with the additional betoises aleph? Because it has nothing to do with the Geulah. It's a whole different period. It's a whole different existence than what we had in the Geulah. It's not just, okay, we're taking the Geulah and we're adding the ingredient of the aleph. It's not at all that. It's a completely different thing. Moving for this understood, the Rebbe says, the general idea of the redemption, also the highest most things in it, is connected with the avodah of embedding and inserting the aleph of the master of the world in the word Geulah. Until we insert it so much that this creates the redemption. Just like physically, if you were to put the letter aleph inside the word Geulah, you transform it into Geulah. The same thing by us spiritually bringing the aleph of the alufish aloylam, the aleph of the Eibishter, into the exile, so we transform it and we make it Geulah. And all matters of exile are brought about and elevate the idea of Geulah, like the Rebbe is going to explain. So before the Rebbe explains it, he's first going to bring in something else from this week's Pirkei Avos. So he says in Ois Hey, Habir b'zeh Yuvan al Pi Mishnah Rishon b'Perek the Shabbos. This will be understood by the first Mishnah of Pirkei Avos of this Shabbos. Perek Shlishi the Pirkei Avos, the third Perek of Pirkei Avos. Look at and examine three matters, and you will not come to transgress. And then the Mishnah continues to enumerate what these three things are. Know from where you come, and where you're going towards, before whom you're going to be giving a ruling and an accounting. So the Rebbe says the question arises on the language of this Mishnah. Minyan Lomli. Why is there a count over here? And this is actually a style throughout the Gemara, that there's many Mishnayos throughout different Masechtas, not only in Pirkei Avos, that the Mishnah starts off with, there are 4 types of things, or 3 types of things, or 2 types of things. And the Gemara right away asks, why does it come to tell you that there's, why does it have to introduce it by number? It's obvious if you just look at it and you just keep track. You said, oh yeah, the Mishnah enumerates 3 things. So why does he have to go ahead and tell us, oh, there's 3 things? And in every case, the Gemara explains what is derived from that number. Pirkei Avos doesn't have technically Gemara on it, but the Rebbe asks the same point over here. Why does it have to say, why does it matter over here that there are 3 things? Even if the number doesn't matter, why does the Mishnah have to explicitly state it? Every single one could count by looking at the Mishnah, see that it enumerates 3 things. So the Rebbe is going to explain it al pi adrush, in a deeper pneumistic level, that the number 3 stands separate from the rest of the topics of the Mishnah. It's not just that the number 3 over here is the enumeration of how many particular things here the Mishnah is talking about, but the number 3 in and of itself has its own significance. So the Rebbe says, we could say one of the explanations, and this is last paragraph on the page. Divrei Mishnah, the words of the Mishnah is takel b'shloisha dvarim. Look at 3 things. Skip the brackets. Ein kavanos amrak l'shloisha dvarim hanimnim behem shcham Mishnah. It's not just intending for you to look at the 3 things that the Mishnah will enumerate. Alagam le'inyan the shloisha dvarim b'chlal. It's coming to tell you about the 3 things in general. The Mishnah is giving you a lesson. Look at 3 things. And the Rebbe continues, what does that mean? Adam tzarich liistakel behaskola beistaklis be'ion. A person needs to look and examine. When it uses the word histakel is more than just re'iyah. Histakel means histaklis be'ion, to examine it, to look at it closely. B'shloisha dvarim, in 3 matters. Va'ideza ein atabala de'avera. Already by this, a person will not come to transgress. So now he's going to explain what's the number 3 over here. And if we would only have 2, what would be the issue? A person could think that he has to have only 2 matters. There's the person himself, and Hashem that he's serving him. I was created to serve my Maker. So that's what we think. There's only 2 things in the world. I and Hashem, nothing else. I merit some Mishnah, comes the Mishnah to tell us, look at 3 things. A person needs to contemplate, look well, and to see that there are 3 things. In addition to his existence, ani, the I. And there's the existence of my Maker, Hashem. There's a 3rd thing. The existence of the world that was created by Hashem. And through that 3rd thing, a person, a Yid, serves his Maker. The world is the tool and the means through which he serves Hashem. The goal of the creation of the world and the descent of the neshama down here below in the physical body in this low world, that there's no lower world than it is. To fulfill the intention that Hashem desired to have a home down here below. A Yid through his service should refine and purify his body, his life soul, the physicality and the coarseness of the world. And to transform all of these things into a home for Hashem. And how does a Yid do so? And this he affects through his service in a body down here below in the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs. Sheroiv mitzvahs neslapshu b'dvarim gashmim. The majority of mitzvahs are enclosed and involved and entail physical things. They kill mitzvah davar gashmi, through the fulfillment of mitzvah with a physical object. So we refine and purify the physical matter, and we transform it and make it into a vessel and a vehicle for godliness. Al derech mitzvah tzedakah, similar to the mitzvah of tzedakah, sheshkula keneged kol mitzvahs, that is equal to all the mitzvahs. Ikar mitzvahs ma'asis v'oila kolana. The Alter Rebbe explains that it's the primary mitzvah of all the mitzvahs in action, and it has an advantage over all the mitzvahs in action. That's a perfect example of this transformative nature of the mitzvahs. That a Jew takes from the toil of his hands, from his physical money that he earned, that he earned, and he gives the life of his soul away to Hashem. Well, in other words, something that could purchase for himself food, so it's his own very life he's giving away to Hashem. In a similar vein, in all the mitzvahs, the person gives away his very being or his very physical entity to Hashem. Whatever it is, whatever object he's using for the mitzvah. So therefore, the 2 versus the 3 is the Yid and Hashem, and then there is the world. So this world plays a very important role, and that's the point that the Mishnah is saying by saying that there are 3 things. Don't think there's only Hashem and you. There's also the world, and that is of core importance. It says in the second paragraph on the second column, Va'inyan Ashlishi, the third matter, but you're supposed to look at the 3 matters. Las is dir b'tachtoinu, to make a home for Hashem down here below. Who loy inyan study. It's not just a side thing that the Yid, while he's here, okay, you're here anyway, make a home for me. Ela adrab, just the opposite. Zen negel l'shleimus d'ashnaim kaviyachol. This matters for the perfection and the completion of the other 2. HaKadosh Baruch Hu ve'adam ha'ived. They both need the third. They both need the physical world being transformed. Hashem and the person that's doing the avodah. Since Hashem desired to have a home down here below, that's the entire being of a person and the goal of his creation and descent of his neshama to this world, to make a home for the Eibusha down here below. So Hashem needs this third thing, Kaviyachol. He desired this third thing, and the Yid needs this third thing, because that's why he came down to this world. So therefore, the number 3 is just as valid as the other 2. To such a degree, does this matter to this person, that he needs to look closely at these 3 things. For this sake was the descent of the neshama down here below through Hashem. Despite the great quality of the neshama above, the neshama that you placed in me is pure, meaning when the neshama is above, there's no room for anything the opposite of purity. Despite this great and elevated state, then Hashem sent the neshama down here below. You created her, you formed her, and you blew her into me. Until into this physical world of action. That in this physical world of action there is the life and there's the good. And then there's the other way that could be the opposite of purity. Until the neshama needs to be guarded over there. That's why it says, and you guard her within me, because there are negative things in this world that could damage the neshama. And all of this, the neshama went through, despite being in such a great and lofty place, to fulfill the intention of making a home down here below. The seemingly the descent of the neshama in the body is the opposite of the ordinary way how Hashem acts. What's the way how Hashem acts? Shehu mekor v'tachlis hatoiv v'chesed. He is the source of, and He is the ultimate good and kindness. Umiteva hatoiv lahetiv, and the nature of one that is good is to do good. Umitzad hachesed v'hatoiv v'yitzorach liyis tamid aliyis. And from the perspective of kindness and goodness, there would always have to be only going up. Here Hashem takes a neshama and brings it down here below. Yerida Geulah, great descent of Bechinas Golus Mamish. It's Mamish an exile for the neshama just to come here into this body. Migra Ramala Bira Mikta, from a high building to a deep pit and dungeon. From this itself is understood the great quality and the kindness that Hashem was kind to us to have us do this avoid of making a home for the Eibusha down here below. For the sake of making a home down here below, it's worthwhile to bring the neshama down here below. Not for the sake of the neshama itself. Because the neshama itself doesn't need any type of fixing up whatsoever. So it didn't have to come down for its own sake. It didn't have to come down because something was wrong with the neshama, but rather the purpose of the neshama coming down here, rather to repair the body and the animal soul in this portion of the world, to be able to make a home down here below. And through the descent and the avoid of the neshama down here below, to make a home down here below is affected an even higher thing than the avoid of the neshama itself above. Because when the neshama comes down here below, it has something that could not have when it was above. When it was neshama shenasat b'tohayri, when it was in a place of purity above, it could not attain the revelation of Hashem's very essence. That it only attains down here. So it's really very core and very advantageous for the neshama. It's a kindness that Hashem is doing for the neshama. Till this advantage is something that's drawn down and affected also in the neshama that descended below. In addition to the fact that the neshama reaches a level that's much higher than the level from which it descended from there, the revelation of the power of the neshama, the neshama receives also the connection to the revelation of Hashem's very essence. That's affected through the avoid of the neshama down here below in making a home for the Eibusha down here below. In other words, since it participates, the neshama is participating in what Hashem is about, so it takes part, and it has a part in that, and it gains from that very revelation of Hashem in this world. So now we can understand the last paragraph in the first column. According to this understood the directive of the Mishnah. Look at three things. Regardless of the great advantage and quality of a Jewish soul, it's mamish a part of Hashem above. The content of his avodah has to be in addition to the fact that he turns himself into a home for Hashem through revealing his neshama in his physical body. The neshama gains through this avodah. He also has to look at the three matters. And he has to make a home for Hashem in the low things of the world. That the world itself becomes a home for Hashem. Through that, the person also reaches a perfection, since this is the entire purpose of the person, And that's the reason for his creation. Though for him it's a temporary descent. Only through this is there an elevation occurred in the person, and he does not come to a transgression. Through his avoidance, making a home down here below, examining the three things, he doesn't even come to the possibility of doing an Aveda. That's what it means, Lidei Aveda. Lidei is the handles like of the Aveda. It's not even the Aveda itself. It's even something that can allow for the possibility of the Aveda. That's negated. So once we've established that the third thing, the world that needs to be transformed into a home, is a crucial and vital thing that a person needs to know about, now we can understand how Geulah is part and parcel of Geulah, even of the highest levels of Geulah. Ois Vav, middle of the second column, according to the Bible, will be understood. Also, the idea of redemption is the same letters of the word exile, just by adding it has an additional letter Aleph. Geulah einu vatel sa Geulah. Geulah does not negate exile. Rather, it includes in it the exile. Va'adrab, just the opposite. Not only does it not negate it, but he mailas hagoylai desh machniso magalabas alufish aloylam. It elevates the exile through inserting in it and revealing in the exile the master of the world. Since the intention is to make a home for the Eibusher down here below. Part of making a home for Hashem is down here below is not just making a home for Hashem down here below when there was the Beis Hamikdash, when we were not in the time of Geulah. Part of the Tachtonim is the lowest state of Tachtonim, the way the world is in a state of exile. To reveal the master of the world, the way Hashem is connected with the world in the lowest level, the way it is in a state of exile. Even more so, this is the entire content and idea behind the redemption. Even matters of the Geulah that's beyond exile, like we said before, even the change in the way the world runs, like for example the resurrection of the dead. That's the whole point. We want to have the revelation of Hashem in this world, that becomes a home for the Eibusher, Hashem's very essence. That's what it means. Dira lo yizbarach. Lo means Hashem's very essence. So therefore, the Rebbe concludes, v'lechein, top of the last page, toloi inyan hagul maseinu v'leseinu calls mamesh hagolos. Therefore, it's dependent, the idea of the redemption, in our actions and service. The Alter Rebbe says, throughout the entire time of Geulah. What's the emphasis of the time of Geulah? In Geulah is where you have to find the Geulah. Geulah, which is the idea of Geulah, ha'avoida d'achnosas ha'alef alufish shaloylam beGeulah, the avoid of inserting the aleph of the master of the world in the exile, ad shaydezen nasas Geulah, until through this becomes a redemption. Roiva oisis v'roish tevis Geulah Geulah kanalsiv beis. The majority of the letters and the beginning of the letter, the word of Geulah is Geulah, like we said earlier in the part that we skipped. This means to say, in addition to the fact that the great ascent of the redemption comes only following on the heels of and the result of exile, similar to the revelation of the power of the light in the Neshama through its descent down here below, from the very Geulah itself, by adding the Aleph to it, becomes Geulah. The home for Hashem's very being and very essence is affected by and in the ones down below themselves, in those that are down below themselves, similar to the advantage that occurs in the neshama through the descent down here below. And that's why the Rebbe says in footnote 53, when Moshiach comes, the ultimate reward is when the neshamas come down to the physical bodies, because that's the whole purpose, and that's the whole reason that the Geulah should turn into a state of Geulah. And that's also the reason why the mitzvahs that we do in the physical world is greater even than the spiritual things and the godly revelations of Olam Haba.